Good evening, and welcome to another segment of the New Black Leadership Coalition live show here in the great studios of Intellectual Radio. My name is Gregory Sang, one of the co-founders of New Black Leadership, host of this show, and sometimes the co-host of this show, but absolutely one of the contributors of the show. I am so thankful, so blessed by the have yet another opportunity to get it together and to thank Almighty God, our Creator, for giving us the tenacity, giving us the courage, giving us the love and the wherewithal that we come before you with a perspective that we believe is absolutely in tune with not only the abolitionists, the real work of warriors, the real work of fighters, the real work of servants of God. And though we are imperfect, and though we have our faults and our shortcomings, we believe that God continues to cover us and to help us grow out of the weaknesses that oftentimes destroy us and keep us from being balanced and focused on a very serious work during a very serious time. So I am indeed honored and blessed to come before you all. And if you're tuning in via Facebook Live and any other means, please hit the share button. Share this with your friends. Before I make these comments, I'm sitting here with the founder of the New Black Leadership. We have a guest on the line, but there were some circumstances that prevented him from being here live in the studio, but we wanted to still hear from him. So Brother Reed Fellows is on the live line, and you're going to hear from him, but I'm planning. Yeah, brother, this brother is very, very knowledgeable on a lot of things. We're going to talk a little bit about the Black agenda, but real quick, I'm sitting here with Brother Minister Michael Muhammad, and a true soldier, a true warrior, and really a fighter and organizer. And more than that, a student minister that is absolutely studied and continues to study the word so that you could take what you see going on and fit it into scriptures. Because if you're not able to do that, you lost. And we got a lot of people lost because there are many people who stand before them who are not studied like they should be, and they understand the time and what must be done. So how you doing this evening, Brother Minister Michael Muhammad?
We're blessed to be alive another day, Brother Gregory, and doing the Creator's work and
Yes,
trying
sir.
to serve our people and serve the God of our ancestors and the God of our present circumstance.
Absolutely.
And so it's just a blessing to be here and try to motivate, stimulate, educate, and uplift our people with truth.
Absolutely. And so one thing you won't hear is a watered down um, version. We're not going to scratch where we don't itch. We're not going to sugarcoat. We're going to call a spade a spade. So, look, I got a couple of things to say, Brother Reven, and I hope you're still there. I want to do this commentary, and we're going to go right into some subject matters and some of the current events. But a couple of weeks ago, I had the honor or pleasure, was very thankful to be in Detroit. I was there on a Friday, the same weekend that they had our sisters, Aretha Franklin's funeral production. And also the next day, I flew to San Francisco to Drake University's, amazing reunion too. But I won't talk about the reunion, but just the word reunion on that particular stage. I was sitting in the lobby of the hotel, not for the whole 7 hours that I witnessed the Honorable Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan sitting there on the stage. And me too. I was anticipating, I'm thinking the minister is going to speak because he on the stage. But what a man, what a marvelous man with divine humility that he enjoyed being in the company of his folks, regardless of your ideology, your philosophy, regardless of your religious label, etc., or your affiliation, period. That man embraced everybody that walked by him, that those who had courage to embrace him, and etc. He enjoyed himself for 7 hours. And you don't know this man 85 condition and what he's been dealing with health-wise, etc. But he sat there, he stood for 7 long hours around him. And there was some snakes and some cowards that I really did not appreciate the disrespect. But even with that, he still humbled himself and showed the divine love and principles that that man is about. I'm not there where he is. Therefore, I'm only expressing the other side. And I'm telling you, little spineless cowards, I watch your body language. You did not, you wanted the enemies of black folks. You wanted them to see that you were not at all befriending the honorable minister. If I saw your body language, you lucky I'm not calling your spineless name tonight. But people who are wise, go back and look at the body language of these so-called black leaders. Ain't nothing leadership about you. You're a hustler, you're a pimp, prostitute, and a cheap whore. And I'm saying that to you because I watch your little weak, cowardly body language. You are scared to associate with an honorable man that have not done anything to no group of people. Zero. And then we embarrassed. That was your litmus test. That's your last one because everybody know what you really about. I ain't even got to call their names and people know who these civil wrong people are. Not civil right, but civilly wrong. And anyway, I just wanted to say that and get that off my chest because I was disturbed of that disrespect, just total disrespect. And then you got enough fools who call into y'all little weak shows and they pump you up. But that's how you got your show. That's why you on national television with your process. Because you done sold your soul to the devil for a few pieces of crumbs or silver. You creeps. But anyway, I'm done with them anyway. But if I see you in person, I'm going to say the same thing I'm saying over the air to you in your face. Make sure you all share this. And if I'm offending somebody out there, that's too damn bad. Because I don't have time and patience for cowards with the condition of our people, and we can't show unity. Don't let nobody come between us. The hell wrong with you? God gonna beat you up for that too. Just keep living. Anyway, the other commentary, real quick, is look. I ain't got a horse in this race, but all I want to say is be patient. Stay tuned. Don't get too excited because we have some information that's coming to you real soon regarding the condition of black people, poor people, no matter what kind of race, no matter what kind of situation is going on in Chicago. Just stay tuned. That's all I have to say. I'm not going to get deep into this whole mayoral thing and who's the next mayor because I'm not going to do that now. We're going to have some real um, pertinent information that will be disseminated from here and from other means, by other means in other areas and other places. For now, just stay tuned. Don't listen to a bunch of clowns out there because they just spinning you and they act like they desperate as though that's the answer to our survival, our salvation. How foolish. How foolish. Unity, man. Unity is more powerful than an atomic nuclear bomb, and you run away from unity. And then you always trying to tell black people, just vote. You can't vote your way out of being a coward. You can't vote your way out of doing for self. You can't vote yourself to have integrity. You can't vote your way out of poverty. Anyway, Minister Mike, I just had to get that out, bro. Now I feel better. I feel relieved. But I just, Brother Reeven, I just can't stand a bunch of damn cowards. Our community continues to suffer and die. And you got fakes out here claiming to be your leaders. Y'all should be ashamed of yourself that you don't check some of these clowns with the condition of our people. We don't owe nobody no damn apologies, none. Nothing with what our people have gone through on this planet and continue to suffer under white supremacy and white privilege and Negroism. I ain't leaving y'all out because you the buffers for them. That's the real. They become enemies of self. They sit them on us. And they get it. They get in behind closed doors as though they speak for us. You don't speak for me. I know you don't. Do they speak for you, Reeven?
No, I'm Geraldine's son. Only my mom and daddy.
They speak for you, Minister Mike?
No, sir.
Hey, folks, we got Brother Reeven on. And Reeven, tell the people this, your organization, man, and some of the work. Reeven is a guru of when it comes to a black agenda. What it is that we know, it's a lot of things that black people, should be putting at the table when we sit at the tables, but it's like a game because we know there's some basic, like, is that Maslow hierarchy of needs?
Maslow.
Yeah. And so there's some basic needs for survival that every people on the planet need. But when you think about the black agenda, Reeven, does that fit right into that will move the needle, the bar, as far as black people are concerned, poor people are concerned?
Well, man, you nailed it on the head, and thank you. And our leader, oh no, he says don't call leader, one of the facilitators of the new black leadership. That to be corrected, and the work that you're doing, man. But I'm excited. I got a special guest with me today. Sister Cecile, she's moved around a little bit, and so she's been trying to get some rest because she's been doing heavy research. And it's great that you guys are allowing us at the last event, the round table about the political process. And Sister Cecile and I were able to present what we've been doing for over 5 or 6 years with a team of great minds and mastermind educators, principals, scholars, teachers, corporate, all kinds of leaders, institutions, universities, and we've stayed together for these years with no funding, no money, operating like the University of Chicago and all the major think tanks that white people have. So we've had a great deal of greatness in Chicago that we put together, and you'll be hearing from my brother who has been working with Cecile on a consistent, who's been in corporate and knows the system. So we're no longer going to do an agenda from a proposal. We're going to present as a business plan with outcome based, and where we got things as what's going to be the final line. We're going to spend the game with a business model. As you know, we got 2 business governors. So they're about outcome. What's the outcome? If I invest, what I'm getting back. And so the brother I'm introduce you to, who's been behind the scenes and authoring with Cecile. That document that we presented, he is the one that we sent to vet it, and his background is undepicable in terms of technology, corporate, education. So we going in a Six Sigma style. Since white folk got big money, we're going to present something that has a return on the dollar and the reparation of our dollar holler. That's what we're going to be doing. So I want to introduce my brother Bill Patterson on the line. But before I do that, and I need him to hear this because he's technology background, and I want him to talk about the Black agenda from that perspective. But there was the IMTS conference at McCormick Place, and IMTS.com, and it's considered the largest manufacturing conference in the United States. It only comes around once in a lifetime, every 2 years. They had 20,000 young white people registered. They're going to be at McCormick Place from today until Saturday. And so we were organizing with the National Black Agenda and some others, and working also with State Rep Ford to get students from the Black community, because we're in a digital divide. And so I was there all day. I'll be there tomorrow. But if you get a chance, Google IMTS. The world is going to change. We got robot people that's about to do what we did in picking cotton. We got to rethink ourselves. But go to IMTS.com and look at it. Go down to McCormick and see how this world is going to change on manufacturing. Robots are coming in. So we got our children there doing work. They have an area for some of the schools. But I won't elaborate on that too deep, but you got to see it. It's mind-boggling. So with that being said, I want my buddy Bill, who has background in IT, who's been doing research on the National Black Agenda and making us from a professional standard. Brother Bill, are you here?
Yes, I am, Regan.
And speak up, Brother Bill, because by being over the telephone, the folks out there might not be able to hear you. So speak up, and you have Sister Cecilia too there.
So Cecilia, she couldn't make it today.
Oh, that's okay. That's all right. I know you mentioned her name.
Get some downtime. I need
that's fine.
Too, but we let her take a sabbatical because she's been working hard.
No, that's fine. So the brother that you have there that's on the live line, you introduce yourself, brother.
Hi, my name is Bill Patterson. I've had the pleasure of working with Regan, Sister Cecile, Dr. Frazier, and other members of the National Black Agenda Consortium. And for those of you who may not be familiar with the National Black Agenda, it's a framework that looks at multiple areas, everything from economics to education, everything from veterans' rights all the way to public safety, the whole ball of wax. It looks at 13 areas. For those of you who are interested in reparations, there's something in there for you as well. Faith-based organizations, healthcare, the whole ball of wax. So a good starting point for most people would be to take a look at that. It covers, as I said, over 13 focus areas and 250 problem areas that are now faced by the Black community. But not only does it look at areas of concern, but it also looks at solutions and strategies that can be employed to make changes, to help transform and engage our people and our communities.
Let me ask you a quick question. The structure of America capitalist system, right? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So
yes, I hear.
This particular structure that has been designed in a way where it continues to serve the economically dominant race, where everything that moves, ultimately they make money off of it, right? So what are they gonna give up? How does this really work? So when we talk about Black people having more and doing better, are we talking about white people having less? Are we talking about redistributing the wealth? Or are we talking about independently having our own? Are we talking about assimilating more and hoping to get a few more crumbs? Or are we talking about empowerment to where we are self-sufficient?
Well, I think the latter is the major factor. I don't think we can wait around for anybody to give us anything.
Right.
If we aren't prepared to take our destiny into our own hands, we're going to be waiting for the next few hundred years to try to catch up. When it comes to economics, statistics say that it will, at the rate that we're progressing now, it will take us another 220 years to have the same economic status as twice. And that assumes that nothing goes wrong.
Did you say 200?
Another 220 years for us to catch up. Oh, by the way, the same thing applies in the area of education as well. I mean, so we can't afford to follow the same roadmap. We have to take control of our own destiny. We have to create our own businesses within our communities. We can't wait for people to give and find us jobs. It's not that we don't have money and resources within our communities. We have $1 trillion in buying power already. Our problem is we're just spending it in the wrong places.
Mm-hmm.
We need to form our own businesses. We need to redirect our money in our areas. The dollar spends less time in our community than it spends anywhere else.
Oh, absolutely. We've been talking about that forever.
Oh yeah, the dollar spends less than a day in our community, and it spends almost a month in the communities of other minorities. So Why is that? Well, one thing is that they recognize that they must have their own businesses. They must take control of their own destinies, and they must be engaged.
So are we that messed up, Doc? Are we that messed up, because we've had so many folks to come to us as Black people, poor people, etc. And they talk about, not just doing for self, but we need, economic development. We need this, we need that. But can we do this with the trauma, the psychological trauma that keeps us from uniting and moving out on what the action part? Because I think Black people just frustrated because we got people that's smart like you and Revens and others who research this, know these things. But the sad part of it is, how do we break the mentally disturbed or mentally enslaved, politically enslaved, economically enslaved group of people to move out on this? Because they hear it, they read it, but it doesn't really seem like nothing is moving us to take action. That's my frustration, because we know this. And I think that's where the work have to be doing. How do we get inside of the mind, the heart, the head? Do something have to dramatically happen before we are forced into this thing?
Well, we have several problems. One is, I don't think that many of our people have a good appreciation of just how serious our problem is. I don't think we truly appreciate that. And I don't think we truly appreciate that if we don't get off of our butts and start taking some action, we're in deep water here.
Yeah, we're in deep water now.
Right. We've been in that for quite some time. One of the things that the Black Agenda does is that's an implementation component with it. And what that implementation sounds like we have an echo here.
No, I think somebody's getting a text.
So that was a text coming. Go ahead.
Right.
Okay. There's an implementation component that's associated with the National Black Agenda. And essentially it goes like this: that first there must be an awareness phase where we first of all understand the National Black Agenda, and we come together in terms of what are our priorities within specific communities. And I think we have to do this on a community basis, because different communities have different needs. Our needs in Chicago are a little bit different from our needs in Atlanta or Birmingham, Alabama, or LA or another part of the country. It's not that we don't have many common needs. For example, our educational system is pretty much a disaster all over the country. Now, we have two choices. We can let our educational system continue as it is, and we can take no action and let our kids go down the tubes, or we can take our destinies into our own hands and ensure that either we change our educational systems, or better still, start owning and putting our resources within our communities together to solve our own problems in education and economics, political and social justice.
Let me ask you this:
we have the people,
mm-hmm.
and we have the resources. They just aren't.
Right. So that's what I wanted to ask you.
And organize and empower ourselves to get something done, and we have a framework for doing it. We don't have to start from scratch.
So do you think the church would be an ideal place to where if the pastor, the reverend, etc., the minister, if they would alarm the people that this is what we need to be doing as far as taking control, taking our lives back, our community back, because it needs to be an alarm. It's an alarm now, but it's not loud enough to wake up the people. So if right now there's some folks who listen via Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, etc., and you talk about implementation, what do they need to do? The public, somebody whose relationship messed up, somebody whose credit messed up, somebody who's jobless, the prison system, all of these negative indicators that affect Black people. What do we need to tell the people right now, tomorrow, tonight, that they need to do to be part of it? And we know there's some stuff we can do automatically, like go buy your coffee or go buy this from somebody Black, but the person that you buying it from, hopefully they invest in whatever you spend in there back into the community. But we put pressure on our people, but we don't put pressure on the other people that we spend money with.
If I can, Brother Bill, and you charm with me, line up with me, if they want to do it right now, well, I say that if you want to do it right now, it's called the Southside Federal Credit Union on 54th and Wentworth. It's been there 15 years, Greg Brown. We just lost Seaway Bank. We had the brothers from Ghana to come up and save the bank's Illinois Federal Savings and Loan, and we lost the Westside Bank, and the brother had to come back and get that. But we have our Black-owned credit union, and the difference between banking with a credit union, you can go at the bank, put your money in, and you become an owner and a voting member of your own bank. And then when you put your children's money in that bank, once they go to college and come back, they buy their car from their credit union they own. They buy their house from their credit union. And if you with your pastor at your church, if the pastors and the membership goes into the credit union, the credit union can lend money to the parishioner based on housing, based on starting a business, that these are packages that can be created and around foreclosure at a Black credit union on 54th and Wentworth in the mall, Brother Greg Brown. The next phase, if you having problem finding Black business and you keep saying you can't find one, Cassiopeia to blackmall.com. There's 1,000 businesses on there to buy products, and the products we're going to have to create, but there's 1,000 toilet paper, hair products, and also at the same time, you can go on there, you can register on the Black Mall for free. 1,000 businesses and viewers all over the country. She's international across everything. So that stuff you can
Where's
do
she
right
located
now.
at?
And if you need to get your business off the ground, get it off your basement and off the kitchen table, and you need a physical location, it's called the BobBiz.com. And also the Bob Biz Center, Project 5000, we're at 644 East 79th Street, where Mr. has put together a serious market investment plan to buy the old Tiger Lounge, Joseph, you used to party. And we own that. We have 15 Black businesses. Our first baby out of that is Sister Cassiopeia, the Black Mall, which is on 79th Street. So,
all right. Well, thank you, Brother Reven, and the brother. I mean, you know what? Minister Mike, you got any questions for them? Okay, so I want to thank you all because it's very difficult doing it, but you're going to come. But no. But I don't know if we're going to do it next week or we'll
Okay.
schedule it that you come and bring the brother after you all consult with Mike in terms of the schedule now and come on into the studio, man, so that people can look at you, see you, and then we give them some
Yes.
marching orders like you all are doing now of what we need to do, because I know for a fact that folks are frustrated because we got, studied individuals like yourselves who've doing this research out there, beating the pavement. I mean, every day, you somewhere reaving, getting knowledge, spreading knowledge, and waking up the people. So we just need the other people to join
Yes.
in with folks like you and the brother and us, the new black leadership, so they'll know that there are some righteous servants, some people who are not out here just hustling, bag men who talk the talk, but all they do behind closed doors is get paid and deceive the people, talk a good show, but brother, they don't give a damn about the real true suffering, human suffering of our people. So, man, thank you all. You want to have a closing statement?
Let me say this right quick, and I'll give it to Brother Bill. I left out the National Block Club University.com or .org.
Oh, yeah.
There's over 1,600 of them connected, and what it is 7 healthy principles of living. I hope to bring it next week. When we 7 days, we got something to practice. So if we just practice 7 days of the same thing, if I will never see you as unified, so we'll be bringing that back to you live. Go ahead, Brother Bill. If you want to close us out, we'll close the statement.
Sure. I want to respond to your question about our faith-based institutions and should they be involved. Absolutely, they should be involved.
You say the faith-based or the faith-based?
In the National Black Agenda, one of the areas of focus is faith-based and community organization.
Oh, okay.
And one of the things we see is we have a National Black Agenda. Our church leaders can invite us out. They can get trained on how to implement the National Black Agenda. They can be trained on how to start businesses and how to engage our communities, and they can function as central hubs for the implementation. When we have more time, we can talk more about that, but clearly they're absolutely critical and essential as a part of a strategy for rapidly transforming our communities and helping us to get our goals. And we have whole roadmaps outlined in areas of education, engagement. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Too often, we're out there reinventing the wheel and trying to solve problems that have been solved 20 years ago. What we've done is we've brought those strategies, we brought those ideas, we've set out roadmaps, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. The only thing we have to do is provide some leadership. And by the way, we have a whole leadership development component. All we have to do is provide some leadership and focus on an implementation roadmap and framework, which is already laid out for us.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, Brother Reven. Thank you. And really appreciate that. And we look forward to seeing you guys, hearing you guys here live in the studios. Peace and love.
Thank you, brothers, and keep up the good work. And I left out the other part. While you're trying to get leadership, the major leadership of our facility, Mike, you got to come to our Black Institute training for the Black leadership. That's what you need to do.
Thank you, bro. Peace and love.
Peace and blessings.
Minister Mike, right there. What type of leadership do we need in order to push the people into this action? And what type of leadership have we had that stagnates us, know this information, but have bought into the Democratic Party or the Republican Party or whatever? What type of leadership will drive this?
Well, first, it must be leadership that understands the time and what must be done. And what that means is we have to come to grips with the fact that we are God's people. And God has a purpose for our suffering, our undeserved suffering. and he has an ideal for us, a purpose for us.
Mm-hmm.
And to achieve that purpose, we have to come into what the Honorable Marcus Garvey, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad called the knowledge of self. We have to come to know who we are
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
as Black people in America, because that's a unique condition. And if you're not the direct descendant of a chattel slave, you grew up in America, but your parent, your grandparent, your
Mm-hmm.
great grandparents are from the continent of Africa or some other place in the world,
Mm-hmm.
you don't really fully understand our experience. So I'm saying this thing is specific to those of us who are descendants, direct
Mm-hmm.
descendants of those Black people off of what we call the continent of Africa, and were brought over the Middle Passage and reduced from a noble, dignified, cultural, spiritual people into chattel property. We have to understand that history, and we have to understand the need to look at that history and understand what kind of identity was produced in us from that experience.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have to be ready as leaders to embrace that identity and how we must transform what whites intended to make of us and come into a thorough understanding of what God was doing in permitting such a terrific and horrific experience to occur. And if we can come through that process of mental awareness and transformation into what God is actually trying to make us into, then we will be ready to take on a mind that understands that we were not brought here to be like white people in America.
So why do we call ourselves? Who came up with the term? Because what you said is so significant to a conversation we got to have, Minister Mike. And I had to say this real quick because it fits right into what you're saying. African American.
Well, because we search for identity. And so we came out of being called niggers.
Mm-hmm.
That's the term of white slave owners. That's what they gave us, the term nigger, my niggers. Then we tried to dignify it and call ourselves Negroes. That was a little more proper English.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't want to be called Black coming out of slavery because we had this stigma on being Black. So it was Marcus Garvey and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Those two men had more impact on our psyche, our identity, than any other two men that we've had in our history here in North America. So we started to embrace being Black people slowly in the 50s, then more deeply in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
But then as we make progress, our enemy is always studying, deciphering, analyzing, assessing, and figuring out a strategy, a military tactic strategy to subvert and redirect our progress.
Yeah.
So if we look at what happened in the 70s to combat Black consciousness became Black exploitation era.
Right, right.
Where the pimp was glamorized, the Black gangster was glamorized, the misogynist was glamorized, all of the negative traits were glamorized and then the rise in white America with sexual liberation, nudist camps and women taking their shirts off and letting their breasts hang out, and so that had an effect in the Black community. The disco era, when drugs became the thing, and all of these social trends in part were used to subvert this thing called Black consciousness. And so we perceive the need, we misinterpreted the intentions, pardon me, of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. And we were led to misinterpret his intentions.
That's right. That's right.
And so we interpreted his intentions was for us to become members of corporate America, members of boards in corporate America, corporate managers, upper managers, middle managers, supervisors, and get entree in corporate America. The concept of assimilation and integration. And so with trying to assimilate and integrate and not wanting to offend the progress that we know we had made consciously, we felt that it was more sophisticated. It was more progressive. Not to talk about being Black people, but we should tie ourselves to the continent of Africa. The only problem that we have with that, if we be honest about it, and this applies to Black people in America and Black people on the continent, the word Africa is a Roman name. It's a white Europe. It's a name that emerged from a white Eurocentric culture from that emerged in Rome. So the name Africa is not the language of Black people. That's a word from the language of our oppressors. So when I say I'm African, I'm really doubling down on the fact that I don't have a real sense of my true history and identity.
So the messenger said, who is the Black man?
He said, who is the original man?
The original man.
Right. And so so when we talk about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we have to talk about Marcus Garvey when we talk about this subject.
Yeah.
Because it was Marcus Garvey who pressed us a little before the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to deal with ourselves as Black people.
Mm-hmm.
Not only in America, but globally, right? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he took it to another level spiritually. And our spiritual, psychological, emotional, and behavioral transformation, he gave us those elements that Marcus Garvey started but did not necessarily perfect to the level that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad did. He brought in the element of spirituality, or I would say religious spirituality, right? So that's the biggest distinction. But when we talk about consciousness and why we call ourselves African American, we felt progress meant that we don't need to offend people by talking about our Blackness. We're more sophisticated than that. We understand that there are Italian Americans, there's Polish Americans, there's Irish Americans, there are Chinese Americans, Japanese Americans, Mexican Americans. So we got to connect ourselves to a land base. And since we came from what we call Africa, then in an effort to give ourselves a meaningful identity, we connected our identity with Africa, being African Americans, which the intent is good, but it's missing critical information.
Teach.
Part of which I already articulated is that, you know, Africa is a Eurocentric term that was ascribed to a part of the earth that housed black people.
And what's his name? Africana?
Well, there were many Romans. There were many Romans with the name Africanus, Africano, Africus, right? But it was a Roman expression. It was a Roman name. And since Rome conquered part of North Africa, which Europeans viewed as the cream of Africa, because they didn't really know the depth of the continent, but since Rome was a power that fought Hannibal back and forth until they conquered Hannibal, they conquered Egypt, you know, they conquered Libya, they conquered that northern peninsula, right? So they gave themselves naming rights, which all conquerors do.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
So what I'm saying about leadership,
our name.
Right. So as leader, we need leadership that understand this narrative, understand the truths of this narrative.
Is that why the scripture says we led by the blind, deaf, and dumb?
Because what I'm driving at is that Almighty God, no matter what narrative you look at in the history and outcomes of oppressed people that overcame their oppression, the universe never rewarded oppressed people with justice by trying to eliminate themselves, their own identity, by melting into the consciousness, the lifestyle, the behavior, the norms of the people who oppress them. Black people in America, we were not, our nation states, our tribes, the indigenous areas that we were stolen from and sold away from were all on that landmass that we mistakenly call Africa, right? Correct. So now we're here in a strange land. Now we speak a strange language. Scripture. Now we are a strange people who have lost our original culture and identity, and our sojourn has given us a unique identity. And so in order for leadership to be effective, you have to speak into that condition from a very high level of understanding in order to motivate and stimulate and be able to organize Black people who are we're just uncouth, we're unrefined, we're uncultured. Like I said, yesterday, we like to come to your house unannounced at dinner time. We expect a plate, and we mad if we don't get a plate. We don't like to follow rules, especially if we talked about. So we got a certain mentality that you have to be ready and qualified to deal with in order to last with Black people, because we eat our leaders alive.
Well, the proof is in the pudding. And when you look at the current condition and you see who's out in front of the people, and since we were talking about the faith-based organizations, the organized church, etc., if they not delivering, because when you talk about the father of Black theology, the brother, I know Reverend Wright is a student of it, Charles Cohen. If they taught that kind of Black liberation inside the church, I think the needle will move, because we are continually falling deeper into the dark sleep, right there when it should. Spirituality's got lost. Just like education have gotten lost because miseducation is more profound, as our brother Carter G. Woodson talks about. So there are people with degrees that really are not educated.
That's right.
Because if you don't know the knowledge of self, how smart can you be?
That's right.
And that's what I'm getting from here. Folks, we got to come back to this because it will connect with the next move of what's happening with black folks, poor folks. But if you don't know who you are, then how the hell can you fix what's wrong? I mean, this is very serious. Minister Mike, thank you for that education by the grace of Almighty God, but that comes from intense study. It comes from not being afraid to access information, and don't be stuck on stupid with the misleading individuals, not leaders, misleading, misguiding, misdirecting folks that keep us in the same place we were in last year before last. But anyway, we got to go. Brother Earl, he speeded up the clock on us tonight. Folks, believe me, we should have way more time. Thank you, Brother Reven, and the brother, what's his name? Bill Watson. Thank you all for contributing via telephone. And thank you all for tuning in. Please share this. I'm telling you, we ain't getting out of this if you don't share these conversations. Anyway, thank you, Brother Earl, one of the best producers on the planet, here at Intellectual Radio, the new Black Leadership Coalition. Stay tuned. Peace.